right, we'll call the meeting to order. This is a special meeting of the Frankfurt Plant Board, June 30, 2016. Central business this evening is going to be to act upon the proposed budget for our fiscal year, which commences July 1, 2016. I'll ask Michelle if she'll call the roll of board directors.
Board Member Rosen?
Here.
Board Member Wildman?
Here.
Board Member Progoska?
Present.
Board Member Green?
Here.
Board Member Ludwig?
Here. All right, we have all 5 directors present today. First item on the agenda is, as always, an information item. It is a public comment period. This is an opportunity which we afford to people in the community to come to our meetings and make public comments. And I'll ask, first of all, ask if there's anybody here today who cares to make a public comment.
We do, yeah.
Okay. All right, I'll mention that we'll ask you to come to the podium and identify yourself and tell us whether or not you're a Frankfurt Plant Board customer. You do not have to be a Frankfurt Plant Board customer. And we'll ask you if you'll keep your comments relatively brief and to the point. And with that, we'll open it to public comment. Ma'am or sir, if you care to come to the podium and comment.
I have comments that would apply to items 4, 9, and 10
All right.
on your agenda.
Okay.
To do with customer satisfaction, efficiency programs, renewable energy, and water quality.
Ma'am.
I'm Nancy Watkins, and I live in Frankfurt. Actually, I'm not in the city, but I have some property in the city. I'm glad to see that you're supporting efficiency, and I thought you were considering renewables and informing the public about the water quality with the Frankfurt Plant Board compares with bottled water. I think people have misconceptions about that. I have been interested in these issues for a long time. I have been frustrated at having no good choices for energy sources. Several years ago, we did an efficiency campaign at our house and reduced our natural gas usage by 1/3 and our electricity usage by about 46%. And I have data that can confirm these reductions. We were thankful that the change from coal to natural gas reduced emissions of CO2 and eliminated particulate, mercury, and sulfur. What we now know is that the mining of natural gas causes large emissions of methane, a much more powerful greenhouse gas than CO2. We now know that companies want to bring pipelines for natural gas liquids through our state. These pipelines are not for methane to heat our homes, but for the highly flammable and toxic natural gas liquids. To get around the many problems caused by fossil fuels, I would like to see the Plant Board include renewables in its future renewable energy portfolio. In its future energy portfolio. I'm a user of natural gas because I have no easy choice now. I could put solar panels on my roof, but would prefer to use a renewable option within the Frankfurt Plant Board. Fossil fuels have had a monopoly for many years and have enjoyed a long history of government subsidies. Now we are having to fight to protect landowners from new or repurposed pipelines that would bring toxic natural gas liquids through our state, endangering water supplies and lowering property values. Now we have other good choices with solar, hydro, wind, geothermal, and the like. These choices have not had the privilege of government subsidies as fossil fuels have, but we can band together with other utilities to show that they can easily be cost-effective. The cost of solar panels continues to decrease. Renewables can easily be distributed near where the power is used, and thus greatly reduce the need for long transmission lines and the waste that accompanies that. They do not have to be mined. They have no pollution as long as the sun shines, the wind blows, and the water runs downhill. These choices are much more attractive to our property values, our health, our environment, and to our children's future. It is high time we allow these choices to be considered, as Frankfurt is considering its future contract. It's a great opportunity to plan ahead and be a leader for the rest of Kentucky. And one other comment on the bottled water. I like your idea of informing the public about how FPB water quality compares with bottled water. Bottled water companies use a fossil fuel feedstock to make the bottles, and then they mine the water as a free resource. The public needs to look at the true cost benefit of drinking bottled water. It is a ripoff. And they think bottled water is better quality. I'm not so sure about that. So that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir?
I'm Dick Watkins, and I live in your neighborhood, and so I'm a customer of the Frankfurt Plant Board. I am in support of action item number 10 on today's agenda. Here's why. The Frankfurt Plant Board, in cooperation with the Frankfurt Climate Action Network, enclosed a flyer with the November 2010 bill mailing regarding energy efficiency program customers could call, this flyer that was added in cooperation with Frankfurt Plant Board and the Frankfurt Climate Action Network was regarding an energy efficiency program customers could join called Lighten Up Frankfurt. There were only a couple inquiries about the program from over 15,000 brochures that were sent out as part of the billing cycle. Just 2 or 3 responses from over 15, and I think there were 20-some thousand inserts put in the bill, and we only had 2 or 3 people respond. So this demonstrates the poor response to this type of customer outreach, and that other methodologies should be considered. Any questions about that? Anyway, that's an example where you did it, and unfortunately I was part of that, and it was unsuccessful. So I think other options are a better choice. Thank you.
Do we have any more public commentators? If we do not, I will close the public comment period and go into the action item agenda. Okay. First item is on the agenda is number 2, consider addition of grant administrator role. Of course, this has a bearing upon budget. That's what we're here today to talk about mainly, is budget. Does anybody care to talk on this subject?
Well, I think having a grant administrator fits into more direction and long-term goals, and being aware of what grants are out there, what available programs are that the plant board could participate in. The city does have a grant administrator position, which has only spent half of that person's time on grant work. And so this would be looking at it in a larger scope and more intensely.
And in addition to that, I think the broader goal here is to have someone that's looking at, the strategic direction of the plant board, what future funding needs we're going to have, and look for the synergies between that and what grant proposals are out there. There's to give you some exposure to what types of dollars are out there. Just as part of the American Recovery Act, there's $18 billion for water, sewer, and environment, $7.2 billion for buildings and facilities, $10.5 billion for communications and information technology, $21.5 billion for energy infrastructure, and $27.2 billion for energy efficiency. That was $84 billion that was handed out to facilitate those types of activities in the United States in the past few years. And without having someone that has that strategic goal, the strategic goals of the plant board in mind, and is deeply aware of those types of funding opportunities that are out there, I feel like we're not doing the best we can to leverage all the resources that we have available to us to further the goals of our community.
And along that line as well, on the staff comments on a grant writer is the recovery money, that the plant board did not secure any of that money. They did not have, as it was pointed out, shovel-ready projects. And if we had a grant administrator, someone who's looking toward that, we would have our goals in line with what available money might be there, and we'd be possibly better ready to develop the two together.
Well, you think there's a possibility then that we could share the grant writer with the city?
Well, that's something that could be looked into. I think our goals are a little bit different.
And I think the bigger idea here is not to have, particularly towards sharing a resource, is not to have just simply someone that can fill out the paperwork and submit the grant. The broader goal is to have someone that's intimately aware of the projects and is involved in the strategic planning on the plant board, so they have unique insight into what might be the possibilities to apply funding to. So I think that level of involvement would preclude us really sharing, because you wouldn't have the in-depth focus of the specific strategic needs of the plant board.
Now, along that line, though, one possibility might be sharing with a grant writer with, say, Kentucky Municipal Energy Agency, that would be something that would benefit all the municipal utilities, and we could share that cost with another group that would be focused on that type of objective.
What would be the cost of a grant writer?
Well, I think the cost that was written in by staff, which was about $48,000 to around $62,000, is probably an appropriate place to start.
Is that in our budget for this year?
Not at that point, not at this point.
That's what we're considering,
Yep.
is that.
We'd like it to be considered.
Are there other agencies that do this?
Well, certainly there are. The $84 billion that was handed out by the American Recovery Act was clearly consumed by other public agencies.
Rick, and there are bluegrass agencies that also does grant writing?
Well, I don't know that they focus primarily on grants writing. The Bluegrass Community Action, the Bluegrass Community Area Development District, the Bluegrass AD, when I worked at the city, worked hand in hand with almost every grant that the city applied for that had to do with any type of infrastructure needs, whether it be for construction of sewers or enhancing the wastewater treatment plant, those type of things. So I would assume that there is still an individual with the Bluegrass ad that would be able to provide grant opportunities, assistance in writing those grants. I don't know at what level. I can't remember the gentleman's name, but I mean, he came and he administered the grant, and that was well before I think they had a real grants writer at the city. I don't know if that position is still available or not, but that was with the ad. But
Well, another concept that could be explored is managing peak energy demand, and doing a program where customers could have, if they agreed, volunteered, have equipment added to their, say, hot water heaters, so that at peak demand times it isn't running at 100%, it's running on and off. Another possibility would be to combine the grant writer position with running an energy efficiency program, some type of program to encourage people to improve the insulation, functioning of their home.
Well, you know, we just got through in the past 3+ years with several projects that we received grant funding from. People that were deeply involved with the project from beginning to end, that anticipated the need for seeking grant funds and applied for those grant funds, and we were awarded those grant funds. There was one project that was, I think, about $4.1 million through the Kentucky Infrastructure Program, and others. So it's not that the company is not looking for grants. I think just because, as Mr. Baldwin stated, there were $84 billion, just because there's $84 billion out there doesn't always mean that because you apply, you are going to receive. And all that quoting of the big numbers, I would like to know if he's done any research that tells us how much of that grant funding came to Kentucky, and more specifically, how much of that grant money came to Frankfort. You know, we talk about $84 billion, and when I watch the news, or when I see things on the news about governmental assisted programs, it's never in Kentucky, and it's big dollars to one or two companies or corporations to develop something. So in your research, did you find anything that relates to Kentucky?
Well, I think the bigger comment there is that, you certainly won't receive the grant dollars if you don't apply. You're right that, often these grants are very, very competitive. I believe the $7.2 billion that Broadband USA distributed, there were actually $28 billion worth of applications for that. So it was clearly a very competitive process.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't apply, you're certainly not going to get the funding.
But I guess I would be interested to know is, as far as long-range strategic planning, we've got assistant general managers, we've got a general manager, we've got department heads that when they're developing the budget, because we don't just do a one-year budget, we do a one-year budget and a 4-year forecast. And so items that are in the 2016-2017 budget are items that have been planned and forecast and thought about 4 years ago. And so during that time, those department heads and managers have taken steps to analyze their needs and have looked into the future and said, we need X number of dollars, and there are grants available, we'll apply for those. And so, in essence, they are a grants writer for their department. You mentioned that we needed somebody that was deeply involved in the strategic plan and to know what is happening, to bring someone in off the street. There would be a large educational curve that they're going to have to learn about, and it's not like in some corporations or in some entities where you have one line of business. We have 3 lines of business, all of which are unique, all of which have different requirements, and I would say that if we hired someone to be a grants writer, that it couldn't be a part-time position, because the first 6 months to a year would just be learning what the company is, learning that strategic plan, having to visit each of those 3 major departments to learn what their ongoing needs are. And so you've got someone now that is trying to learn about the business, trying to seek grants from these opportunities that you've presented, that, just the volume would prevent them from being effective for a year or two.
I mean, that presupposes we would hire someone with absolutely zero experience. And
No, but the
I don't
chance-
know that that would be the best hire for the position.
No, but when you have a salary range of 48 to 62, you're probably not going to get someone that has many years of experience in a grants writing position. And if they did come in, I would be hard pressed to believe that you would find someone that has knowledge about the cable, telephone, and communication industry, the electric industry, and the water industry, which are the three major arms of our corporation. So while I think it's probably a good idea to have someone that could possibly help seek out grants, but there are documents, online documents as a matter of fact, that if one of our department heads wanted to say, are there any grants available for this type of service, they could get that information that would give them the information they need to see if we would be eligible to receive that grant, what the application process is, what the dates and timelines are, and all that information. So I don't know why expending, salary and benefits, could well exceed the top end, which is what, 62.5, I think is what the city is paying at the top end. So, it seems like it would not be a good use of our money when the information is out there and available, that the people that work in those departments who understand their needs don't have that learning curve.
Okay, but, so what you're saying is that we're already doing the best we can on securing grants?
I'm not gonna say we're doing the best we can,
Okay,
because you can always do better.
right, and so this is
But
talking
what I'm
about-
saying is, we are not forgoing opportunities because we don't have a grants writer.
Okay.
Well, we certainly didn't benefit from any of the Recovery Act dollars. And not only did we not benefit from them, we didn't apply for them.
Because one of the requirements was to have shovel-ready programs.
But you were
And
just-
that's a
So
perfect
you're,
example of
so
why you
you're
would
saying we
have-
ought to, so you're saying we ought to have programs shovel-ready, even though we may not have that need, but we ought to be creating a need so we would have those
Well,
programs
should we
ready.
be thinking in those terms?
should be thinking in those terms.
Which, and the staff response demonstrates that that hasn't happened.
Well, we can be thinking about those, but does it require a grants writer to think about them?
Well, it requires something more than what we have right now.
Well, then I would suggest that we save the money that we would spend for a grants writer and put a little bit more emphasis on the general manager and staff to be actively looking at grant opportunities.
But their focus is keeping everything running day to day. And it takes a different focus to deal with the future.
And also, looking, perusing websites and consuming the top-end data about the application of different grant opportunities doesn't give you the in-depth knowledge that is required to often be successful to put together a grant funding strategy. And I think the amount of effort there is non-trivial and would be, as Anna Marie points out, a distraction to the normal operational role of the managers that we have in place now.
So if I understand what you're saying that our managers aren't capable of looking into the future, that our managers are incapable of developing an effective program to solicit grants. I think that's why there are assistance offices like the Bluegrass Area Development District, that if one of our managers, say in the water department, had a need, saw a need, forecast in the future that there is an improvement or something that needs to be done, that he couldn't then seek out the Bluegrass ad and say, hey, here are a list of potential grant opportunities. Can you assist us in writing that grant in the format that would, in all probability, get some success, that we shouldn't explore that opportunity.
Well, first off, I'm not saying anything negative at all about staff, and it's inappropriate for you to mischaracterize my commentary in such a negative light. The discussion is more about focus and role and the amount of work product that's required, and the activity of funding and grant writing and the amount of information and familiarity that's required in those things is outside of the operational role that senior staff would be involved in. It's not a negative commentary about senior staff. It's an effort to do a better job towards acquiring those funds and drawing the synergies between our strategic goals developed by senior staff and the available funding opportunity.
No, I think along that line, the development of Kentucky Municipal Energy Agency is a very long-range, good thought. And it's more than a thought, it's coming into reality. And that is an example of thinking long-range into the future. But for the most part, the focus of staff is keeping things running, which they do a great job of. And at the end of the day, maybe thinking about what could be done, looking at a computer, finding a pile of information about grants and trying to sort that out, it just falls to the bottom of the list. And so this would be to refocus, to have a person looking at bringing things up continually. And I've read a lot of the grant information and the executive orders and that kind of stuff, and 20 minutes later, you're not sure what you found. You have to revisit it again. So it just takes a dedicated focus.
It does. You're exactly right.
And relying on someone like Bluegrass Energy or Bluegrass Ad is good, but they're a more general look. They're not really thinking utility.
Well, it's been a while since I've looked at their information, but I know they have a whole section just on water.
The only problem I have right now, of course, we're trying to get a budget, and this particular item of adding a grant writer is not in the budget for this year.
Well, later down on the agenda, we have some ideas about what to take out.
Well, we haven't got to that point yet. We've got an action item that we need to dismiss with right now.
Well, let's check in with our chair. Do you think it would be okay to go through the different items and then vote on them?
I think we ought to take one to one here, act on each one as we go down the line. My reaction to the suggestion is that I've read the staff's response, and I think it's pretty persuasive. I think our staff does do a remarkable job of watching for grants and low-interest loans and opportunities. Also, I note that all these other munis were polled, and none of them have a full-time grant writer, grant administrator. We're being asked to create a new job, considerable cost there, new job position. The public is always asking us to keep our expenses down, keep our rates down. They pound on us on this subject all the time. And I'm just, having read the staff's response here, I think it is persuasive, and I'm reluctant to authorize a new position as full-time grant administrator role.
Okay, well,
I mean, that's my 2 cents.
okay, responding to a couple of your comments, you mentioned the different municipals in the area aren't doing anything, but they're all much smaller than we are. And we just heard from a couple people from the public who are
Bowling
saying...
Green is a significant community, Bardstown, Georgetown.
Well, they don't have as much of a diverse focus.
Well, are we to where we have a motion, or are we
Well,
ready to
one
do
more thought,
anything?
then, is that, the concept that the grant administration function would be an expense line item. I think that the measure of success of the role would be to generate more revenue than we pay for the
That's
grant
right, but
writer.
that's only a-
If we're spending
that's a vague
$60,000
goal.
and
That's a
we're
vague
only getting
goal.
$1,000 a year out of it, it's clearly not an effective program. The goal would be
We don't know if it
funding.
would pay off. We don't know at all. It's speculative.
But
So I
it-
think the immediate concern right now today is as to this budget for this coming year, are we going to authorize this position? We can always look at it again next year, whenever. It's not something that has to go away forever. But I think it needs more exploration and more consideration than we can give it tonight. Okay. We have a long agenda here. Do we have a motion? Anybody?
I make a motion that we consider the addition of a grant administrator role to the to the 2016-17 budget.
Do we have a second?
I second it.
Any more discussion? If not, we'll take the vote. Vote yes is to create this new job position. A vote no would be to not create the new job position. Michelle?
Board Member Rosen?
Yes.
Board Member Baldwin?
Yes.
Board Member Podrosky?
No.
Board Member Green?
No.
Board Member Ludwig?
No. All right. Next item is also an action item. Consider a spending freeze for the HFC network until a long-term broadband strategic direction is defined.
So the thought around this, we've got, an existing HFC network. We clearly have some challenges delivering the level of service that we would like to our customers, and we're at a point where we, staff and clearly, customer feedback indicates we need to spend, some significant effort and dollars to improve the service level of the network. And the goal here is to not, abandon the network. The goal here is to simply take a step back, and before we continue moving forward with expanding the existing infrastructure, to get a long-term view of what our end game is and to make sure we're wisely spending the money that we're spending now to expand the existing HFC network.
Would you explain to our listening audience what HFC?
Oh, I'm sorry, it's hybrid fiber coax. So it's the structure of fiber to the neighborhood and then coaxial cable to distribute to the individual homes. And there, along that lines, there are, different directions we can move forward to improve this. We can put money into the HFC network to expand its ability. We can look towards pulling fiber further beyond the neighborhood to the individual homes. And there are strategies we can adopt to do that wisely so that we can improve service levels in some neighborhoods by potentially upgrading them to fiber or pursuing another path, or potentially upgrading or improving the hardware of the topology and hardware of the HFC network to improve that service level. But again, the goal here is to not abandon the HFC network per se, but to make sure that we're spending our money as wisely as possible with the end goal of whatever's 5, 10, 15 years down the road in sight.
Well, if we do this spending freeze, what happens to our HFC network structure that we have right now? How do we maintain it and keep it going, keep it moving to our customers?
Well, we're not talking about turning anything off. We're just talking about not spending significant dollars to improve the service that's there without having an eye towards what our end game is, to make sure we're spending that money well.
But this
so
is
that
a
we get-
freeze.
A freeze until we develop that strategy. So it's not a permanent discussion. It's a freeze until we know what our end game is, so that we can make those changes intelligently over time. It's all about efficiency. It's not about, again, abandonment or throwing out what we have. It's about making sure we're moving in the most intelligent direction we can towards our long-term strategy. So, if timeframe wise, if, there's a strategic direction that's developed in 30 days, let's start acting on that. If there's one developed in 6 months, let's start acting on that.
Staff has filed a response, here again, a lengthy response, and staff doesn't want to halt plans to make improvements to the existing HFC network. Also, staff has pointed out that the staff has recommended with this budget to use the next 12 months to hire a consultant to evaluate and provide needs assessment for the community and to look at this subject. But the staff is telling us they don't want to stop in our tracks with this program. Now, I'm not technical. I'm not qualified to tell the staff that it's wrong. And why are you qualified to tell the staff that it's wrong?
Well, it's what I do for a living, one. And two, it's more of a strategic discussion about, using money wisely. If you look at, the National Broadband Plan and the guidance of the federal government with their rollout of broadband in the nation, they're expecting, or their goals are, 100 megabits per second by 2020. And, we're nowhere near that. And I think no one, debates that we've got, ways to go with our broadband delivery. And the goal here, again, is not to abandon the HFC network as is presupposed by the hyperbole and staff's response, but to make sure we're spending the money wisely. And, none of this, none of this suggests, 5 or 7 or 20 years in stagnation for the existing network or service level of customers. It's simply, as we point out in the budget that we have, some dollars allocated to do some research to figure out which way we're headed and what our strategic direction is. The goal is to not keep spending money until we know what that strategic direction is.
We have probably a half a dozen Microsoft certified people in our IT department. Are you Microsoft certified?
Microsoft certification has nothing to do with the distribution of broadband.
Well, I think it has something to do with internet service, does it not?
No, Microsoft supplies, desktop applications, server software, that type of thing. None of those are networking gear. Most of our
So
networking
our
gear.
whole IT department is just a waste of time for us?
Not at all. They're simply different functions. Cable telecom relies on equipment primarily from different vendors. And there are certainly different certifications that are attached to those types of systems. The Microsoft certification just simply isn't one of them that's deeply involved in there. You'll see Microsoft certifications associated with ancillary services associated with it, like email delivery and that type of thing, but not with actual networking in the delivery of broadband.
So what, you've read the staff responses, that pretty much, to me, outlines that they do have a plan. What do you take exception with in their response? I mean, they're the experts as far as I'm concerned.
One of them is that the response presupposes that we're talking about abandoning the HFC network until we put some other system in place. And that's not at all what I'm suggesting. What I'm suggesting is, again, that we simply make sure we're spending our money wisely. And, we clearly don't have a long-term plan. That's why we've budgeted money in this budget cycle for, consultants that are experts in industry to come in and help us, chart a best path forward. And again, the goal is simply to wait until we have that best path forward before we continue spending significant dollars on the existing structure.
Isn't it also true that, that you have a firm, passionate belief in fiber to the home, and that you have pushed many times to move forward with fiber to the home projects, even though we've addressed that it's something that is coming, it's something that is probably the next step in our delivery of broadband and telecommunication services, however that's broken out, whether, what all travels over that line, but that you want us to spend money now on doing stuff with fiber to the home, and because of that, you are saying, hey, we ought to freeze any spending on our hybrid fiber connectivity now?
Not at all. I think that, again, the point of all this is not to abandon the network or to stop working on the existing network or to stop providing service to the customers who are on that network. It's to make sure we're spending the money wisely. We clearly have some work to do on our network to provide a consistent service level and a quality of service to our customers that they're paying for and that they expect and that the rest of the nation benefits from. And at this point, we don't necessarily know clearly where that direction's going. And again, the thought is simply to not spend any more money until we know what the best way to spend that money is moving forward.
So is the money that we have in the budget, is it not to make sure that we're maintaining the level of delivery that our customers currently have? And that if we were to freeze spending, that if there is a problem that develops, then our customers lose out because we've got a freeze and we're not going to spend any money on that network?
I'm not real certain of the hypothetical you're presenting, but
Well, what I'm saying is, we have put money in the budget to support the HFC network and its ongoing activities until such time that we can develop an assessment of what our future needs are, which is kind of what you're saying, that you want us to develop a long-range plan. Well, it seems like we have a plan to develop a plan, and in the interim, if our customers have issues or concern with their broadband delivery, they're not going to get it because you've recommended that we put a freeze on it.
well, the issues that our customer has and our network has are frankly massive. We have thousands of customers that we have a less than 10% ability to deliver the broadband they've paid for. We have, on the other side of that spectrum, we have a significant number of customers that are overserved because of the saturation on their particular nodes. And there's two problems there. One, we've got a significant number of customers that aren't able to receive what they would expect from the service they're purchasing. And then we've got an asymmetry across the customer base, where we've got a significant number of customers that receive very good service and a significant amount of customers that receive very bad service. And the amount of effort and dollars it'll take to get that homogeneous and to bring up that whole customer base is non-trivial. So again, back to the goal long-term, and that staff is pursuing by having the dollars in this current budget to chart that path forward. This is a non-trivial effort. So again, the goal is simply to make sure we're spending this money wisely.
Well, I'm glad you brought up your information about the asymmetry, some other words that you throw out there. But basically, you have requested from staff information that outlines every one of our nodes where we have assigned throughout the community. With that, there's the number of customers that are on each node. And in essence, you've taken that document to try to micromanage the work that our telecommunications department is doing, which I think is information that, well, it might be good to you because you said that was your line of business, but I don't think it is information that the entire board needs to work from, because that's what we have paid, and I'll call you experts, but paid staff, that's what they manage on a day-to-day basis. And so it seems like to me that using the data that you requested, that we could focus our areas on and our efforts on providing increased services and better delivered broadband service in those node areas that were lacking, to help give them the broadband service that they are, as you say, paying for. But if we freeze, then we won't be doing anything to help those individuals in those nodes that aren't receiving the quality that they're supposed to be receiving.
Okay, well, listening to everything you said, Rick, I think what Walt was trying to do is look at the overall program of where are weakest parts, where are our strongest parts, and how to bring them together. But that there's such a disparity that possibly the whole system really needs to be thought out carefully before putting more money into it where it's not going to help that much.
So, again, if I'm understanding, and it's early, so I'm not sure that I've got a complete handle on it. But what you're saying is we want to take time to develop a long-range plan
Without putting in a bunch of money right now.
without putting a bunch of money into it.
Right now, yeah. in
And
the
so if
existing
this
system.
plan to develop were to take a year, then we would be delivering less of a product to our customers than we would if we did not put a freeze on, but continued to work on a plan. So what I'm saying is, so let's freeze everything, let's don't do any more work, let's just work on getting a long-range plan together.
Well, why put money into something that's already broken when you could start putting it into an improvement?
Right, and the goal is to have a better network long-term for the lowest dollar possible.
And so what's the long-term cost? I mean, the staff talks about somewhere in the neighborhood of $20 million. The staff talks about 8 to 10 years. One question that the staff posed to us was, what does FPB and its customers do to provide acceptable internet service in the interim if we freeze spending on the needed upgrades?
But again, that's a mischaracterization of the situation. You certainly wouldn't, completely abandon the existing HFC network while you wait for however many years. 7 is probably way outside the scale. I believe the number mentioned by the Calix vendor that staff spoke to was 3 years start to finish if you leaned into it. But realistically, we would be longer than 3 years. So that, again, the goal is not just to completely abandon the network and abandon all the customers until we have some perfect system in place that we can switch everybody over to. The goal is simply to pause and make sure that we're spending the money wisely so that in the long term, we're providing the best service we can for our customers.
Well, I think the staff has done a good job of saying, hey, we recognize we've got a problem. We have a plan to try to work on that problem, but in the interim, we need to still be providing service. If we lose internet customers and they go to some other provider, we could have the best network around and people aren't going to come back. Once you leave something, you very rarely ever come back. And so, I don't want to put us in a position of starting to lose customers because we're not doing anything, we're not investing any money in the network. And this, to me, seems like that's what we're doing. We're going to freeze it for whatever period of time when we already have money in the budget that our staff has said it's a wise use of our resources. And to put a freeze on it and then basically leave customers hanging out there to dry until we come up with a plan.
Well, it's just a mischaracterization to say.
Well, you can say what you want, but that's the way I would think that many of us reading this, and if they hear it out in the community, will say, oh, well, I've got, they're not going to do anything for my network. I'm going to start looking around for another network. You can say it's a mischaracterization all you want, but it's a fact.
Well, we have had customers, and recently we had a whole neighborhood that put in requests for an explanation of why their internet service is so weak. I don't know that we came back and said it's because there are too many people on that node and we're going to do something about it. I don't think we said that. I think we looked for wiggly wires and we looked for other aspects that might be the problem. I don't know that we said it's because our system isn't laid out to help you during those peak load times.
What I see that is a good idea, but I think the wording is what is incorrect. And I think when you say spending freeze, if this could have been worded in some other manner, then maybe I think it's something that we could agree to.
I'm certainly open to other wordings if
Well,
the details of
we've
the.
got what we got, so we have.
Well, we can modify
We
it.
can modify
This
the
is
motion to
meeting.
read however we want to read.
What would you propose it should say?
Well, certainly not a freeze.
Okay, well,
There's nothing wrong with what the staff is recommending and looking into what we're going to do in the future, which is what you're advocating.
we could say, consider every time you're going to spend specific money to bring it to us and discuss why you want to put that money in rather than the long-term solution.
Well, if you approve the budget, you've approved in actuality, you've approved the expenditure of those funds. So it would be redundant every time they want to spend money to have them come back before the board. Now, unless it is a situation where they're having to bid a project out, then the board does need to approve the bid award. But, we've already approved the expenditure of those funds through the approval of the budget. So, I don't think that wording, I would be more in favor, and it has as little to do with this actual wording but it would be an item that we could add at some future point, at some future meeting, that maybe put some direction, which is what the board is supposed to do, is to provide direction to the staff to start developing a plan. It says we're going to do it within the next 12 months. Maybe we put some type of emphasis to do it sooner than that. And then what results from that, that plan can be implemented into next year's budget. But I can't go along with freezing expenditure of funds for the improvement of a network just because we think it might be an unwise use of our money.
Well, the thing is, we don't know, and we're in a situation now where we could be sacrificing the long-term quality of our network for the short term.
Or we could be sacrificing the short term for the long term.
Well, staff's got it in the budget to have this consultant, so I'm reluctant to overrule staff, our technical people that have the degrees and the training and the credentials and are in touch with the market every day and technology every day, and I'm not going to micromanage them, and I'm afraid to vote for a spending freeze. But I am glad to see that staff is alert to this subject and you're going to explore it and help us with it. And we got a long agenda today, so I think we need a motion, if anybody's going to make a motion.
Okay, I move that we consider a spending freeze for the HFC network until long-term broadband strategic direction is defined.
Second.
A motion second, any further discussion? Okay, the vote yes is to in favor of the spending freeze, and the motion is stated. Vote no would be to not grant the motion.
Board Member Rosen?
Yes.
Board Member Baldwin?
Yes.
Board Member Progrosky?
No.
Board Member Green?
No.
Board Member Ludwig?
No. Okay. All right, next item is number 4. It's an action item. Consider the addition of $20,000 in next year's budget to review the viability of energy efficiency programs similar to House Mart, Kentucky.
Yes. Now, this is, again, long-range thinking, and the Kentucky Performance Program, Kentucky Home Performance, is likely to lose their funding at the end of the year. So looking at what can be done, possibly merging some program with the city, the county, how we can help our customers deal with the rate increases in electricity is what this is about.
Well, at our regular meeting, in one of our regular meetings recently, we had a presenter here from Kentucky Home Performance, I think it was, who outlined the various alternatives available to almost any residential customer to get their assistance in evaluating their efficiency of their homes and to help them with the costs of doing that and to improve it and all of that. And I think that's the road to go and I think we can help our customers become aware that Kentucky Home Performance has these services available and it doesn't cost them anything. And it directly addresses the subject of energy efficiency of our customers. So I don't know that we need this.
Okay, well, a couple comments there. Kentucky Home Performance does not include working with renters. So if they're in a bad situation, they're going to be stuck with high energy costs. And it does cost the customer something. It's a loan program. So, and HouseSmart Kentucky also costs the customer something, but it shows them in an organized fashion what the value of putting the money into an improvement would be.
And the structure of the HouseSmart program actually, although there is a cost associated with it, it's structured such that the net output for the customer each month is actually less because the reductions are greater than the debt service.
Now, who is going to conduct this review of viability of energy efficiency programs and so forth? Who's going to do this? You're saying put $20,000, spend $20,000 for someone to do this. Who's going to do this?
Well, the idea is that the $20,000 would be a pool of money we could draw on to do whatever studies become deemed necessary per investigation into what programs are available. For instance, one of the first steps of the HouseSmart program was, I believe, a $7,000 expenditure for an analysis to get a feel for how well our customer base fits the model and how to move forward with it, to actually look at our actual financials and see where that goes forward. So that would be an example of how we could use the $20,000.
Well, again, who does this? Do we hire a new employee to do this?
I think it would be a cooperative effort between staff and any outside consultants that we may spend the $20,000.
Did I understand with our public comment that we sent out 17,000 flyers and got 3 responses?
Yes.
That true?
Yes.
These are things that we try. These are things that we are trying to do, and you see what kind of response we got.
Well, perhaps we need to make it more visible. A lot of people just look at what the bottom line is on their bill and ignore a lot of other things. So we do have cable, of course, and doing informational booths at public events is another way. So some of that $20,000 could be part of that, could be talking to customers and getting their input, putting something on the website.
With the Kentucky Home Performance Program, I believe I understood the gentleman to say that it would cost basically the plant board nothing. We have no outside investment except what we want to put into it. In other words, if we wanted to spend money for having an insert into our billing, or if we wanted to have information that we could pass out at public events, that would be our cost. But we would have no cost as far as having to manage someone paying back a loan if they had an improvement done. There would be no cost to the plant board for any type of software that was needed to be able to manage who had received monies from the program. And if I understood how Smart Kentucky's program was that we had to buy software so that we could track the individuals that were on the program, whether that was one individual or 100 individuals, we still had to buy the software to manage that program. We've heard from staff that said, you know, in the finance department, that would create a burden because they don't have the personnel available currently to do that. So you're talking about the cost of another employee. We also then, according to How Smart Kentucky, had to set up some type of line of credit so that we could cover those deals that go bad. And in essence, we would be adding a fourth line of business to the plant board, which would be a financial institution, because we would be approving loans, low-interest loans, to homeowners that wanted to become more energy efficient in their homes. Did I understand that correct with the How Smart Kentucky program?
I think so. That's if we took on the whole program. We could also sublet it to them.
So we could let them do it, but there's still a cost to us to do that.
Yes.
But there's also
Yes.
a significantly higher value product in comparison to between the two programs that we've looked at so far. One that we can cover all of our customers, renters and homeowners alike, and two, the House Smart program in particular, and programs like it, provide a feedback loop to make sure that the efforts that were made on the improvements to the residents actually deliver the benefits they're supposed to. So there's an actual financial benefit at the end.
Did Kentucky Home Performance not talk about that they also had a procedure?
He specifically said he did not.
I thought he was looking at that.
That was one of the questions that we asked him.
But in any case, you said that there's a potential for them to lose their funding, but I believe he answered that question as well by saying that they had already begun negotiations with some of their financial supporters that would provide monies for them to do this program. So I don't think funding is an issue. And I believe he also said that they provided money to How Smart Kentucky, correct?
That's right.
Yes.
Another thing that I wanted to bring up at this point, I think, you know, as a board, we are supposed to be looking long range. And obviously, this program is a long range looking program. I might regress just a minute and say that 6 or 8 years ago, I think maybe 2010 or before, we got involved with trying to help our community by offering programs to help reduce energy usage in their home, whether it be the old water conservation programs or whether it be some type of insulating your home better or ensuring you have the proper windows installed or your furnace and your heat pump and all that. And we had very little people take advantage of it. But as a board, we're looking long range. That's what our job is. When we as board members take it upon ourselves to go out and actually research and bring in a specific company to do a specific task, then we have, in effect, biased ourselves because we are in support of a particular company. If we had given the staff the task of find us programs that can help improve energy efficiency within our community, the staff could have gone out, researched different programs, and brought the programs to us to evaluate and decide on. But what we have done in this case, we have brought in How Smart Kentucky on 2 different occasions. And in essence, we have biased ourselves toward that organization because we have already decided in some cases this is the best program for us without fully researching all the different available opportunities. I think there is a program that Kentucky Utilities has. I think there are other programs just within the state, not to mention the Kentucky Home Performance Program. But we've biased ourselves because we have taken it upon ourselves to bring in a company to provide us information.
But that's exactly what this action item is
Right.
to go out and evaluate what those possibilities are. It's not to implement House Smart Kentucky or any of the other programs. It's to actually have some money available to be able to move forward and pick someone to help our customers with demand management and to lower their bills.
But it says right here, review viability of energy efficiency programs similar to House Smart Kentucky. So that means, by that wording, we have set House Smart Kentucky as the base. Now, you can ask Mark and any of the other purchasing folks out here, if you request an item, let's say it's a drill, you want a drill, you say, I want a Black & Decker or equal, well, who determines who is equal to Black & Decker?
Well,
And that's the specifics when we go out and we do things on our own without getting the staff involved first.
Well, okay, all we did was ask them to do a presentation. And here, it's just to help people understand what we're saying in the statement, similar to House Smart. We could have said similar to House Smart or Kentucky Home Performance.
You could have stopped at review viability of energy efficiency programs, if you want to get technical about it.
Okay, we could have, but, you know, this
But you
agenda.
didn't, you went to House Smart Kentucky.
This agenda is to help the public understand what we're talking about, and presenting something that they may have heard of if they saw the programs gives them a clue as to what we're talking about. So I think that is just an addition to help people understand what the motion is about. Also, as you pointed out, yes, LG and AKU has energy efficiency programs, which are approved by the Public Service Commission, and that would be another place to take a look. How they're approaching the project
Then-
is completely different.
Then why didn't we ask staff in the very beginning to research programs on energy efficiency to help our residents, instead of taking it upon ourselves to go out and bring in companies to
We
provide
brought them
those
in
services?
to offer an informational statement as to what is out there, what could be done.
In our budget meeting that we had on the 23rd and 24th of May, this item was brought up, and I believe at that time, the board said, we will not consider that. Do you remember that?
I don't remember voting on it or anything like
I
that.
didn't say we took a vote on it.
Oh,
I said, it was asked, and we said we were not going to consider that. You remember that comment though, right?
well, there are lots of comments made, and maybe that comment was made, but that didn't mean that we couldn't reconsider it. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I'd be very much in favor of the, making some flyers, some folders, or some pamphlets, I guess would be the better word, that we could have in our office when people come in to pay the bills or to come in to get service or whatever, that would maybe outline how they could better insulate replacement windows and reduce their energy efficiency. I would be willing to go along with that, but I don't believe it'd be $20,000.
Well, this is to explore what might be the best solution. This is to have staff work on exploring what is the best solution to help people with energy efficiency, looking at the fact that the state of Kentucky overall uses more energy for heating and cooling than they should be compared to the rest of the world. That energy has been cheap, so why insulate? As Matt Fiskus, who is the person with the Kentucky Home Performance, pointed out, that if you don't have insulation in your attic, you're just having it go right up.
Exactly.
And people don't understand that. To pick out a program that can help people figure this out. As we've pointed out, or customers have pointed out, we have sent out flyers and they aren't catching on. We need to do something better.
And so I am in favor of providing the informational tools that our customers need to have to be able to access the programs that are there. So I would be in favor of promoting this every opportunity we have. If you feel like your energy bill is too high and you want to find ways to reduce that energy bill, here is House Smart Kentucky, here's Home Performance Program, here's KU, LG&E's different plans, and all the other plans that are out there. I can support that, because I think those people that want to do those home improvements, and they're unable to get a home equity loan or a home improvement loan from a financial institution, and this is the only way they can make those improvements is by going through one of these programs, then we'll do everything we can to support them getting that information. But I don't think we as a company ought to get in the financial business of providing loans, determining who gets a loan, who does not get a loan, how we pay it back, whether it's a renter or a homeowner. I don't think we ought to be in that business. But we ought to be in the business of providing them information and what resources are out there for them to seek those improvements that they need.
Don't we, as energy suppliers, have a certain responsibility to help people consume the product the best way they can?
Sure.
Exactly. We don't have to
And-
finance it.
I think the way to go is Kentucky Home Performance. I think we should be working with them. I mean, I was impressed with the presentation they made. Like Rick says, it doesn't involve buying a lot of expensive software and establishing a new operation in the plant board and becoming a lender.
But Rick was also saying that we, as the board, shouldn't be deciding that. We should have the staff research it and come back with a solution.
Which is exactly what this is about. It's about providing enough money so that staff can present us with options to pursue to help lower our customers' utility bills.
Well, again, does it mean, do we hire somebody to do this? Or are we creating a new job position?
Well, I think we put it into the budget and let staff, Herbie, work out what is the best solution.
Why do we need money to get information about programs that are available?
Well, go back to HFC versus fiber to the home. Why do we need money for a consultant to help us figure out what is the best solution? Isn't that the same question?
I don't think so. On the one hand, we're asking staff to do their job to provide the board information about existing home efficiency programs. I'm not sure why you need to hire anybody to do that. I don't know why that can't be part of staff's normal daily operations to research that information. I think they have the ability to contact individuals. Vint and his folks definitely know people in the business that can help provide program information. They, if we have to, we do an RFP of some sort, a request for information. I don't think that requires money to do that. I mean, requires your salary, obviously, but.
Well, if we're not going to have to cut the agenda short today, we're going to have to keep moving. So do we have a motion as to agenda item number 4?
Number 3, isn't it?
No,
it's
it's
online.
number
It's
4.
Okay.
There are 2 versions, but number 4.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
I move that we consider the addition of $20,000 in the next year's budget to review the viability of energy efficiency programs, similar to House Smart and Kentucky Home Performance.
Second.
Discussion. Vote yes is to make this allocation of funds. A vote no is to not.
Board
Michelle?
Member Rosen,
Yes.
Board Member Baldwin,
Yes.
Board Member Prokowski,
No.
Board Member Green,
No.
Board Member Ludwig.
No. Agenda item number 5 is an action item. Consider adoption of policy to include open source software options in all future new software acquisitions.
I think it would be best to start out with a description of what is the difference between open source and packaged software. And my understanding of that is open source is software that's open to the public, that you may have to pay a fee to use, but that is constantly revised based on public interest and need. And software that is presented by a company is a package that you buy, and if you want to see changes, you want to see adaptations, that they may or may not comply with your interest. So that the more progressive choice would be open source.
Right, and then the bigger thought there, the 2 points that I would highlight is that you're able to leverage a larger development community by using open source systems. And also, there's also a tendency in companies, well understood, that once you're in their ecosystem, you're continually in that chain of one size fits all of all their products moving into your organization, whereas open source systems allow you to have more of a best of breed approach and allow you to get off of that treadmill of consistently purchasing software every cycle out of the same vendor. And there are certainly financial benefits out of leveraging all of those additional workers that are not associated with the company, that are contributing their time for free to the projects, and also large corporations that can contribute their time for free. And there's a licensing benefit as well, but often that's offset in the implementation, so the licensing isn't necessarily the primary reason why you would move towards it. And to clarify what the goal is here, is it's not to say that we should have a wholesale rush towards replacing systems with open source software. It's more just to make sure we're considering those technologies that are out there when we're making our choices, and that we're not just simply buying the next product from an existing vendor because we have that relationship and we're comfortable with that vendor.
Well, staff in its response says that staff does consider open source software when considering new software solutions. So they're saying they do it.
Well, particularly in the
And
budget.
they're also saying, if you're going to write a policy, we want to see the proposed policy. We want to give this a careful review. That's what they're saying to us in their response.
Yeah, two things. One, with the particular software acquisition that we discussed in the budget session this cycle, staff indicated they had not considered any open source options. So again, this is to make sure that we're always looking for what those options are.
Are you proposing that staff develop this policy, or is this something that it's a board development?
I think it's fine if staff puts together. I don't know how detailed the policy would be. I think the overall goal would be that simply when we're making software selections or we're renewing licenses, that we spend the time looking to see what open source alternatives are out there. I think that simple sentence would make up the policy. But clearly I'd be more than willing to entertain any input from staff, or if staff would like to craft that sentence, I think that's fine.
Staff, any suggestion of how they would like to see the policy, which Mr. Baldwin says can be one sentence? How you would want that crafted? Does anybody care to throw something out at this point or not? It's not. Okay.
I think Carl's walking up to speak right now.
Not this time, no, Chair. As staff stated, we do consider open source options. During the budget meeting, the question was asked, did we look at Hyper-V solutions? We did not. That was an honest answer, because we weren't looking to replace. We have VMware. We were looking to replace our SANs. So we weren't evaluating virtualization solutions, so that's why there was no evaluation there, because we weren't looking to replace it. In talking with Nutanix, they told us about their software, which is free of charge to us, and the benefits of that. And that's why we said that this is a storage virtualization, because of what they said. But we weren't looking to replace VMware. We're happy with VMware. Nutanix also works with VMware as well, and that's why Mr. Jones answered the way he did, because that was the direct question. But we do consider open source, so staff really doesn't feel the need for a direct policy stating. And I wouldn't want to make a sentence right off my head today. want to go back and reflect if the board directs us.
Do we have some sense of why staff believes that there would be some downside to making sure we have a complete evaluation of all the products that are out there before we're making software decisions?
Well, we feel like we do that. We don't just, because we have like Microsoft Office, we don't just first run to Microsoft and say, tell us what you got. We do. We feel like we do our due diligence and looking for the complete solution for this company and cost being involved in that, so.
I think staff has indicated one concern is that, you know, if we have a need for some sort of a solution and there's a $100 package solution out there, does it make a lot of sense to spend a whole lot of research time researching all possible open solutions to a software when we can in some instances buy packaged software for $100 and move on and get the problem resolved. I think we're a little concerned about having our hands tied that on every single application we would have to do a complete research of open sourced.
Right. And I think in most cases, we're probably not, most of the cases I think we would target, I don't think we'd be talking about $100 acquisitions. You know, to give you some sense of, you know, what I've experienced in the past, you know, we had a large retailer that we went in and looked at a particular implementation, and their vendor recommended solution was going to set them back $20 million in license costs and hardware. And by going back and taking a look at that system and being able to select open source alternatives and more commodity-based hardware, we were able to deliver that system for $400,000 instead of $20 million. So you know, there are significant savings to be had by doing that analysis. But if you don't do that analysis and you don't have that mindset, you don't even have the opportunity to benefit. And you know, and also, you know, along the lines of, you know, that dollar amount, you know, the examples of the open source systems that staff utilizes are in that, you know, low dollar kind of range. And this is less about, the idea here is less about an individual purchase or a trivial piece of software, and it's more about a mindset to, one, make sure that we're not to guard against getting trapped on a cycle with an existing vendor, but to also make sure we're picking the best of breed applications for the projects that we're moving forward. And as we, you know, move more into demand side management and those kinds of things over the years with AMI and those types of implementations, there's going to be more and more opportunity for larger software systems to be getting involved inside of our business.
Well, staff is saying they're already doing this, and as far as the character of the action item, I don't know what it's got to do with our budget today. It says consider adoption of a policy. So I don't know that it, you know.
It's because it's tied to the other agenda item that the open source option wasn't considered on the, where's it at?
Number 6.
Number 6.
Just the
Well,
next
why
one.
don't you draft a proposed policy and give it to staff for their considerations, and then we can go from there, see what we come up with. Okay.
I think that's fine. We can put it on the agenda for the July meeting.
So we're going to action item number 6.
Would 6 be involved in 5 also?
6 and 5 are tied together because of the policy.
Consider
On the agenda for next month.
Yeah, so let's just go ahead and move. Well, so then we'd have to move that into an amendment to the budget for the July meeting. So.
We're not today going to remove this from the budget. Depending on what happens in the future, we may. Okay, because what we've done here today is we've kind of deferred this for Mr. Baldwin to come up with a proposed policy, and then we'll go from there. Okay, brings
Well,
us.
then why wouldn't we defer the expenditure of funds as well?
I think we're going to leave it.
Until we have a path
I
forward.
think we should leave it alone and we'll see what develops on that, because the proposal was to consider removal of funding, so. Okay, agenda item number 7.
Well, it's, I guess removal is maybe a bad choice of words, but the full statement is consider removal of funding pending the evaluation of open source options. So I guess the better way to phrase that would be consider hold of funding until the open source options are considered.
So
So-
should we vote on that?
We should probably vote to table that discussion until the next board meeting or until when it's brought off the table.
Meaning that money shouldn't be spent
There's no
until-
funding involved in.
Well, and item
And
number 6.
there
Number
is,
6.
yeah. 5 and 6 are tied together.
So if we were to table it, and then if we were to bring it off the table in July and vote for it, then we would then have an action item that would be to amend the budget. If we vote against it and do not approve it, then there would be no requirement to make any changes to the budget.
Is that a motion?
I move that we table action item number 6, which is consider removal of funding for virtualization software, Nuonix, pending evaluation of open source solutions.
Okay, I'll second that. Okay. Discussion. If none, would you call it, please?
Board Member Rosen?
Yes.
Board Member Baldwin?
No?
Board Member Kurowski?
Let me make sure I understand. We're moving to table, right?
Yes.
But we're still spending the money.
Oh,
But we're still spending the money.
oh, okay. I want to change my vote.
We're not taking that out. We're not taking it out of the budget, at least not now.
Aren't we saying that
Okay.
nothing should happen with it until we revisit it?
Yeah, 5 and 6 are hooked together, and we'll deal with them in the future, tabling.
So
Okay.
the motion says that we're clearly not spending the money at this time. We're taking it out of the budget currently.
No. The motion is to table action item number 6, which is to consider the removal. So we're tabling it. We're taking no action on that item until we bring it off the table in July.
So the budget will continue
So
as is.
the budget will continue as is. If in July, when we take it off the table, we decide to approve the removal, then we'll make an amendment to the budget and remove it.
Right.
But
Okay.
we're not going to remove it until we make a decision. So my vote is yes.
And my vote is no.
Board Member Green?
Yes.
Board Member Ludwig?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. All right, so we're on to number 7. Consider funding $2,500 for evaluating a new direction in landscape maintenance.
Yes, this is something that I've gotten involved in and talked to Mark and to Bill in the maintenance group about how we could look at our landscaping for energy efficiency, cost reduction effort. And I've looked into this a little bit. There was a survey done of the municipals, other municipals, and how they're handling landscaping, and if they've done anything to work towards a more pollinator-friendly, lower maintenance cost landscaping, and they have not pursued this. So I expanded my search and study of this, and I ended up with the Army Corps of Engineers and their efforts to meet Executive Order 13514, which came out from President Obama, and it's to put more emphasis on looking at landscaping to benefit pollinators and to think about not just simply mowing everything, but maintaining it. And I talked to Chief Keith Chasteen, who is the district manager for environmental issues, and he talked to me about several programs that they're working on. One, the most significant one currently, is at the McAlpine Dam, and that they have a steep wall, well, not wall, but steep grade of area that they want to keep the growth of plant material low for visibility, and that they actually have gone to weed eating the whole entire 1.5 acres several times each summer, well, probably more like 8 or 9 times, at a major cost in terms of energy efficiency, pollution, and just time of the maintenance staff. So what they have gone to is planting wildflowers in that area that benefits pollinators, that maybe every 3 years they would either trim it or do a controlled burn. And they're also have written several documents about how to approach landscaping to look at what makes the most sense. In one area of the Ohio district of the Corps of Engineers, they are actually converting 50 acres in Indiana to wildflowers in areas that they wouldn't need to mow continually. I also spoke with the director of Metro Parks for the city of Louisville, and they have estimated the cost of maintaining 1 acre of mowed lawn per year is $1,000, and that includes the fuel needed, person's time, and equipment. And he also noted that besides being expensive, they've had 6 ozone action days in Louisville so far this year, and those is when the air quality is poor enough that pollution index is high and people with health problems shouldn't go outside. It's bad all the way around in a number of ways. So this is another benefit to not mowing everything continually. He also explained that mowing is 10 times less efficient than the use of driving a car. So it's a energy inefficient effort which causes pollution, when we could turn that around and benefit pollinating insects, especially honeybees, which are currently in crisis. He mentioned Joe Crescent Park, which has some steep slopes, similar to what we might be looking at if we replace the reservoir, which would be an ideal location for doing a wildflower-type planting that you'd only mow at the end of the year or maybe every 3 years, depending upon what you're trying to do and grow. Let's see, both Steve Gose and Keith Jantine mentioned that you do get questions from the local population who notice that you're not mowing or something is different, and that signage is important to share what you're trying to do and have them to buy into the program. Steve mentioned people have come over to the park and said, I mow my lawn, you aren't mowing yours, what's going on? They explain it to them, and people usually understand, and they've also increased the number of bird watchers in various parks, depending upon how they're managing it. Mark had a couple comments on the areas he'd like to evaluate with doing a couple of acres as kind of a test. We found a local supplier, well, local to Kentucky, which is Roundstone Seed. They're in Upton, Kentucky. And they offer a product which is a little more expensive, but it's active live seeds. So normally wildflowers have seeds that come off that have some type of protective coating, and you put them out there and they don't germinate. It's because they're designed to go through the system of a bird and come out already, well, with fertilizer and ready to germinate. So they supply seeds that have already been processed so that you get a very good germination rate. Why don't you go ahead and add your ideas on how you'd like to proceed, Mark?
Well, Ms. Rosen did come and talk to us and everything. We had already considered doing this in some areas that are very hard to mow, or they're in the middle with cars all the way around, so we can't really ever mow it unless it's on overtime. And so we considered that. We put money in the budget to attend some a landscaping training thing in Louisville, and I think it's in October, that we haven't previously attended. And so this kind of fits in along with us. I don't know the exact acreage that we might do, but we wanted to consider those areas first, because some of them it's on a ledge or something like that. Others, there's cars nearby, and so we don't want to damage someone's cars. So we think this would be a cheaper option than mowing on overtime. But we'd include those dollars in there. $2,500 is a good estimate about what seeds would cost if we did two acres.
And maybe some signage. And one other thing I didn't touch on is that we have a display right now of trees appropriate for under power lines. But there's actually there's no signage. How would anyone even know why those trees are there? But they're different ornamental type trees that only get so high, and sharing that with the public on our website, on the billboards, which are there in blank, would be another good thing we could do.
Mark, did you say you already had money in the budget for this?
Yeah, we had included some money in the training budget, or travel budget to travel to Louisville and see how that works, what the
The
landscape.
green landscaping
I should
cost.
explain. Normally, we check out things that are more like the, like farm machinery, because we have some tractors and stuff like that. But we also realized that we maintain a lot of landscaping, and so we had included some money in the travel part just to, it's just a Louisville, but just
So,
to make sure we had.
I guess
some
what
of
I'm
that.
asking, Mark, is so if there's already money in the budget, is this action item to add more money?
Yes, it is. There is some money in the budget, but this is to focus on the concept of cost reduction by looking at landscaping in a different way. And what Mark didn't mention, there's the conference, but there's also classes that are offered at the conference, and this would encourage people to pay attention to, I don't mean pay attention, but give it a higher level of interest, to look at this seriously, to look at long-term how we can incorporate this into other areas. We have, I think we figured roughly 150 acres that the plant board maintains through the summer, 8-month growing season, $1,000 an acre. What else could be done with it? And looking at that and really thinking about it, doing some tests, possibly if you see a stand of milkweed, let it grow, mow around it, to give it some focus. And to look at this as a possible approach for handling the reservoir once we replace it.
Yeah, I think that on those areas that we have, that we maintain, that are on steep slopes, that like you say, someone's either got to use a weed eater to cut it, or got to tie a rope around them and hope somebody holds the other end so they can mow a steep slope or something. I think planting of natural flowers or wildflowers or whatever is a good idea. It adds beauty. If you've looked at the intersection of 64 and 127, there's a big patch of red out there. I'd rather they be blue flowers, but they're red flowers. But I think that's kind of the same effort.
This probably attracts more pollinators.
I think that's the same effort. I think that's a good idea.
Okay.
I wonder if there's not money already in the budget though, and maybe specifically not Mark's department, but in other departments, that they may already know that, we put money in here. We're probably only going to have 2 people attend the class. We're not going to spend all the training money. I would imagine that there's some feasibility where we could move money from one department or another. I mean, we're only talking $2,500. It seems moot to make a budget change for $2,500. I think we could find the money within other departments to help do that.
Well, I think this is an important thing, and we should make it a priority. And so I think the budget should be rewritten so that we can say, this is a priority, we're putting money into this. If we see something come up, we have the money, we can go ahead and do it.
Well, I think if we direct Mark that, yes, you need to do this, then that makes it a priority. And I think that we can find, I think it's an effort in fertility sometimes just to change something just because it can be changed.
Mark, do you see the need for us to fund more money, or do you think that you can achieve these objectives in existing budget for time being?
Well, it's the board's
Doesn't
pleasure.
seem to be any difference of
Yeah,
opinion as to the merits.
Yeah, it's really the board's pleasure. I have landscape money, and that's what we do it out of. We did figure up some costs of the seeds and stuff like that, and that's where the $2,500 figure came from. So either way, it's not much money. So.
Well, I can go either way on it myself, as far as the new dollars.
Okay. I make a motion that we consider funding $2,500 to evaluate a new direction in landscape maintenance.
Second.
Discussion.
I think this puts it in as one of our objectives, and I feel that the plant board could use some positive ideas that the general public would be happy about.
Okay, let's call this, remember, vote yes is to budget this $2,500 for that purpose. A vote no would be to not do it.
Board Member Rosen?
Yes.
Board Member Baldwin?
Yes.
Board Member Kroski,
Yes.
Board Member Green,
Yes.
Board Member Ludwig,
Yes. Okay, all right. Motion carries. Agenda item number 8 is an action item. Consider expanding the involvement of FPB Board of Directors in the budget planning process. Now, this action item, I don't know what it's got to do with the budget we're talking about today. But it's a subject that sounds common sense and reasonable and everything until you get into the nuts and bolts and what the implications are. So again, I don't know what it's got to do with our existing budget we're talking about today, or the budget we're talking about today. But I would like our finance director, if he cared to make whatever commentary he wishes on this subject.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Board. I appreciate it. I would start with kind of explaining some of the outside or external restrictions or rules that must be followed. In 2014, House Bill 1 was passed, which created special purpose governmental entities, SPGEs. You can find more about this on the Department for Local Government website. But what that did is set out a list of criteria for reporting our financials. FPB every year must submit our budget and post it to the Department of Local Government website by the 15th of July. So if we have a budget passed today, by the 15th of July, I'll have to post that on the Department of Local Government website. So we will do that. After, from the first of the year all the way to June 30th, we're fiscal year ending June 30, the Board of Directors can amend the budget at any time. If the budget is amended, you can go on the website immediately, or you can compile all the amendments and post them. Actually, the due date to post amendments is the last day of the fiscal year. So today, I have to have all the amendments for this current 15-16 year posted. So at any time, the board can bring up special events or promotions, incentives, projects at any time. I think today's a great example of a list of projects that we want or being proposed to put in that we could put in at any time during the budget. Really, that is about all I really have to add to that. So I'm curious, I'm not really sure what kind of extra involvement we're talking about, but I think what the process we have today seems sufficient to me to be able to provide a budget and provide time to get that budget approved.
I guess my main concern is our primary responsibility as board members is to set policy, and our primary tool is the budget. And my main concern, first off, I'd like to say that I think you did an excellent job presenting the data. I think it was very well detailed and laid out very well for us. But as I think everybody will agree, it's a massive amount of data.
Right.
And as we've seen in the feedback loop process that we've gone through over the last weeks to have some discussions about the budget, we're bumping up against that July 1st date or July 15th date now. And my goal or my thought primarily is that we look at ways to expose the board earlier in the process to what's going on, so we're not consuming dozens and dozens of pages of financial data over the course of a couple of days and then having to generate thoughts on such a short time scale. Just to give us a little more time to consume the data and then also to be able to react to it. Right? And that's really my primary goal with this, is just to be better informed earlier on so we can make better decisions, so it's a little more of an interactive process instead of being pushed up against the time fence at the end.
And
One of the major time constraints we have is that our contract, wholesale power contract with Kentucky Utilities, states that they will give us information regarding rate increases for the next fiscal year on May 1st. That's 82% of the electric budget. That is 52% of the overall company budget. So it's a big item that we must, we have everything done except that piece. So as soon as May 1st hits, we get KU information. We're off and running trying to get impact to the budget and what that looks like in potential rate increases. And then there's about a 3-meeting process to get any rate increase approved because July 1 of any given year, for example, this year, our wholesale power cost is projected to increase $4.8 million over the next 12 months. So I think this is the first budget I realize for Mrs. Rosen and also Mr. Baldwin. The budget really doesn't change significantly as far as operating items. And I think at any given time, too, we can also I'm available any given time to talk about things in the budget. So I'm open to anything you want to do, but I'll do anything I can to make it easier.
Yes, and I appreciate that, and I think that's happened, and it's good. What I want to emphasize there is the planning part. We're kind of hit with, this is all worked out, and here it is. But the planning, how did that go in, or why is that in at that amount, is hard to fathom in just a few 2-hour sessions, 3-hour, whatever. So maybe if we're involved a little bit earlier, before, maybe even before May 1st, to talk about looking at what's going to go into the budget and what are the priorities and that kind of thing.
We could see some output from, you guys are clearly involved in this for a significant amount of time before the presentation of the budget. If we could find a structure where we could get some output out of those early planning sessions, so we have some sense of any strategic direction changes and what types of things are going to the budget would be my primary interest, just to have that visibility of that process as it's going forward.
David, I think I can relate to members Baldwin and Rosen. The first budget that I went through after coming on, in October of the year, and there was so much going on, and then the next thing you know, it's May, and we're deciding the budget. And that first year, I didn't have a clue. I mean, I went through line by line, and my experience with dealing with large budgets was when I was at the city, and I remember how those discussions took place. But then, after that first time, I realized that there were tools that were available. One of the tools that we have available to us as a board member is the project log that outlines not only current year but future years' projects. So you get it by going through that. You see what those projects are. You look at the 4-year plan and can match those projects with those items that are in the plan. So the first year you're at a loss. You really are. In 2 days, I wanted a week, but 2 days is really not enough. But after you've gone through it one time, and after you realize that there are tools out there that are available, it makes the second and subsequent years easier to follow along. The only year that you probably have a little bit of issue with is that 4th year as part of the 5-year plan, because you really haven't had information on that yet. But there again, that's something that's out there far away. But I think with the tools that we have available, and with the experience of sitting through the process the first year, the second year is much easier because you kind of know how the mechanics were put together. You know how the process flows. The only thing that I would suggest is that we take advantage of the 3 days. This year we did it in 2 days, and we didn't actually meet on the 3rd day. I think that maybe in future years we have the 3 days planned, and even if we have gone through all departments, because toward the end of the day of the 2nd day, we kind of rush through some of the smaller departments. Maybe we do set aside the time and make a commitment to actually be here that 3rd day, so that we can go back and ask questions about the 1st day that you've had a chance to think about and kind of absorb. Or we spend a little bit more time, having the board provide or ask questions about, why do we spend $2,500 for training in maintenance for landscaping? Why do we do that? The materials that we have now, the board packet we have now for our budget, is so much easier to follow along than what we had in previous years. I mean, we had a notebook that was about 1.5 inches, 2 inches thick, and this what we have now is so much easier. So I think that we just make a commitment as a board to take those full 3 days and to ask questions, to be familiar with the long-term project log that we have, so that we know what is out there and in the future. We look at you know, we don't just put this budget away after we approve it or not. We don't just put it away and don't look at it again. We go back and look at it. It's outlined by department. It's outlined by company-wide. And, you know, throughout the period, if we have questions, we can come back and say, well, now, why did we put $3,000 for purchase of a software system, or $30,000, or any of those things? I think we have those tools available. So as far as more board involvement, I think maybe if we have to, stretch it out to 4 days. But we take advantage of those tools we have available, and I think that's
What I
being
fear
improved.
is we cannot have directors interfering and meddling back the chain while David's trying, and the department heads, all trying to work on this budget that they're told they have to put together, and David has to orchestrate all this and get all this together. I don't want directors interjecting themselves back, or directors or board injecting themselves into that process that leads up to his formation of a budget. That will cause things to break down. I don't want that. And David isn't going to say it that bluntly, but that's the way it is. And so that's my main concern. And I have no argument whatsoever with anything Rick just said, and I don't have any argument with the fact that the more we know, the sooner the better. And we need to do a good evaluation of the budget when it's put together and proposed to us. We take our time. That's my concern. So that's my 2 cents.
Okay, well, I guess I see those points, but I think that stretching out the final review, maybe that would help, but I think understanding more at the beginning of what the process is, how the decisions are made, of what went in there, because when you look at the final thing and say, well, this is all done, but what's that little number right there, then you get an explanation, but you weren't involved in the logic.
I don't think we need to necessarily get involved back down the line in the weeds. Again, I think that he's got to put together his proposed budget. He's got to be able to do it efficiently. It's a very hard job, very hard job. He's got to coordinate with all these departments, everything. And he has to put forth the budget. And then he'll present it just as he has. And then we can get as detailed as you want to get, every line. You can question what you can.
And again, you know, my goal would be, you know, to put us in the best position to be able to provide that feedback, right? You know, I think,
And
you know,
throughout the
there's a
year, you
balance.
can always go to David or and ask a question, you know.
So I
We
think
did
there's a-
this last year, we had this, what's this about? Well, you can always do that. There's no law says you can't do that.
And I think everybody wants to have an efficient process, and I think nobody wants to interfere with you know, staff's operation. I think there's a line we have to walk between, you know, abandoning our responsibility of setting policy and the efficiency of the process. And, you know, at this point, I think, you know, the biggest thing out of it for me anyway is you know, earlier knowledge of those strategic decisions. If, you know, in a lot of ways, you know, once the budget's codified into that final piece, there's a significantly restricted ability for the board to set policy, and that is our primary responsibility.
Well, the board doesn't develop the budget.
And I'm not suggesting we do. I was
yeah,
kinda
you
trying-
are.
No, I'm actually trying to respond to your concerns, but my primary thought around it is just to be informed more earlier, so we're better prepared for the final presentation of the budget, so that we're able to have some thought about what's going on, so we can engage better in those meetings where the final product is produced.
Well, I don't know of any way to do
It's
that.
not about, you know, getting involved in the minutia of the
Yeah,
finance
you're trying to
departments.
micromanage the development of the budget.
Not at all. I'm trying to set up a structure where we get a longer time to consume the data and can be more
He
active.
explained the
in-
time frame he's got to deal with
Mhm.
when he develops his budget.
Right.
He's confronted with that difficulty.
But there's information available on it, you know, earlier about strategic directions and where things are going. And if we could just be involved in that information loop, we would be better
Well,
served.
I don't know how you do that. I don't know how you
Well, I think that's actually.
you create a policy
I
to
think
do
that's
that.
the question, is that we would look for staff to give us some feedback as to how they could better inform us earlier, so we're not coming into those meetings cold. So we have some sense to get some background before we're presented with all the data.
I've got a little something to add to that. We provide we're asking for the board to approve a one-year budget, and then we say a 5-year plan. part of that 5 years is the current year budget. So with an organization this size, the amount of different projects we have going on is very significant in capital expenditures needed to keep infrastructure updated. So we have to have, looking at 5 years is essential. We could go further out if we need to, and we can. Of course, your data gets a little more hard to predict as you get further out. But the budget you have before you today, if you look at what we expect, not this year coming up, but 17, 18. You know, in this budget, we have what we expect for 2017 and 18. Some things will change. We'll know more about what our year-end cash balance is at the end of June 30, 2017. We'll have things that we know a little more about, but what I'm saying is when you look at this document, you already have a good blueprint going into the next 5 years. From here, we can really track changes. From what we think today, 12 months from now we'll know more. So in a way, we already have a good start to a year beyond this one. So, and anytime, like I say, I'm be glad to have any conversations we need throughout the year. So.
Okay, well, I don't know where we are with this. Just approach it very, very cautiously, very carefully. And but we've heard David, and he's open to communicating with the directors at any time. Okay, unless someone has a motion, I don't have a motion.
Well, I would make a motion that we direct staff to develop options to better inform the board of directors prior to the official budget completion about the contents of the budget, and to present those to us at when those are complete.
Well, that's not exactly what you have. You have the board of directors in the planning process.
Well, I just modified it based on our discussion.
Well, you can modify if you want to, but it's not what we've been looking at, is what I'm trying to say.
So we have a second?
Got no
I
problem.
second it.
Discussion. I think the way we do it now is satisfactory, but I think we do need more time to review it once it's prepared, and Wick spoke to that subject.
Well, the motion really pertains to more advanced knowledge.
Could we read the motion back?
Yeah.
We have the motion restated.
I can say it again. So the goal would be, the motion is that we direct staff to present us with ways that we can be better informed about the budget before the final budget is complete, and potentially expand the process between the period of time between, to incorporate your comment, to expand the time between the presentation of the budget and the final approval of the budget. And again, this is just a motion for them to present ideas for us.
A second.
Okay. Any more discussion? Okay, we'll call the vote, please.
Board Member Russell?
Yes.
Board Member Baldwin?
Yes.
Board Member Rossman?
Yes.
Board Member Green?
Yes.
Board Member Ludwig?
Yes. Okay, moving right along. Number 9 is an action item. Let's see what time it is here. 11 o'clock. Consider additional allocation to the budget to assist the GM in meeting 2016 customer satisfaction goal.
And this is more of a question for the GM. We set a goal for the GM to develop an iterative process to improve customer service. It would be a question to you if you have any needs for finances to be able to support that goal in this calendar year.
I think Hans and Monique have monies in the budget to conduct a customer satisfaction survey so that we've got a benchmark to go from. I think the number one thing that the plant board is going to do to improve the customer experience and hopefully their satisfaction is to move into our new administration building. We'll be able to offer them drive-through opportunities, more privacy when they meet with our customer service representatives. The facility will be nicer. On a community basis, we're constructing a community room that can be rented. It'll have a commercial kitchen attached to it. But specifically, more money, I think what we want to do is start with a survey and get a benchmark of what the customers' pain points are and go from there.
Okay. Keep in mind, though, that the particular goal was to set up a process of a continuous improvement. And while the survey is certainly a good step in that direction, the idea is to have an iterative process that regularly checks metrics of where we are and then develop strategy to move forward on those metrics.
Yes, sir.
So would you request any additional allocation to do that?
It's my understanding that Hans and Monique are satisfied with the monies they've got in the budget.
Okay.
Make a motion that, that it appearing that no additional allocation to the budget is necessary, that we ride on the existing budget for meeting the 2016 customer satisfaction goal.
Do we need a motion to stay with the status quo?
Well, basically, that's what the motion is. It's saying no additional allocation, because the action item was requesting an additional allocation, no dollar amount set. And I'm saying that staff, having indicated that the existing budget is sufficient for this objective, that we not make any additional allocation.
Okay. Second.
Okay, motion, second, discussion. Okay. Call the vote, please.
Board Member Rosen?
Yes.
Board Member Baldwin?
Yes.
Board Member Progrosky?
Yes.
Board Member Green?
Yes.
Board Member Ledger?
Yes. Okay, number 10 is consider removal of budget allocation for customer outreach items, being, I take it, a portion of $37,000, which is detailed on line 31, page 90 of the budget.
Yes. What I think would be best there, rather than giving away small items to customers, is to actually have educational things happening. One might be water quality, presenting information about water quality, possibly doing a taste test, trying to impress people with the fact that Frankfurt Plant Board water is equal or better than bottled water, and I would say better. And to do outreach that educates our customers about services we're providing, and not simply give things away and remind them that we exist.
And I would agree. I think it's important that we do customer outreach and that we tell our story, and we help educate the public. But I don't see that giveaways are necessarily an effective means to provide that service. As we heard from the commentary from the community, that we have direct experience in the community with those things not being effective, and you also see movement away from marketing groups from those types of giveaways.
So the proposal is just not to spend money on
On trash and trinkets.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the idea.
Yep,
Yeah.
that is.
But you don't want to reduce the budget for that for customer, especially.
I would actually entertain either, as long as.
It's a matter of how it's applied. Is that, okay?
True, but I would be, or why don't you go ahead?
I was going to say, I would like to see some feedback before we put that $20,000 in there for how that money would be used. And if it's moved towards more value-added customer outreach and education activities, I have no issue with the budget staying as is, but we need to see, some general idea of how that's going to be spent.
We've
And
got-
a commitment not to spend it on giveaways.
Is it the 37,000 item?
I think it's about $20,000, it's about $20,000 of
Yeah,
that
portion of the
was
37.
for giveaways.
Oh, I see, okay.
Um,
Well, in the budget discussions, we talked about having a community investment team, group in the organization to come up with some, and Glenn and so forth, to come up with some ideas on this area of the budget, how to approach it going forward.
Mr. Chairman, if I might interject, just, when I look at the budget, it shows $3,000 for giveaways.
It
That's,
was more than that.
Yeah, it wasn't what we saw in the original budget.
When you look in,
I'm not sure it is. Is it under
when you
administration?
look in the budget by department, I think it had it combined at 10,000. Of course, you know, I wouldn't have it marked where I could readily find it. But the 20,000 that they were talking about, at least in the budget I'm looking at, for 2017, shows $20,000 for Google and web ads. I'm
What-
assuming that's not what you're talking about.
I don't think we have the same budget.
Oh, I should hope so.
Well, the
It was
citation
on the,
in
it was in the
the,
detail. That was just that 37,000's on that one page, and then the
It
detail.
says there's $37,000 on page 31, line item 90.
That's the whole budget item, and then there was
That's the
another-
whole
there was
budget
another one
item.
in the-
When you look over at the individual breakout,
Okay, that's what I didn't bring.
maybe I'm just looking at in the cable division, but in any case,
If my, I'm gonna interject.
I'm
The
sorry,
amount's 10,000.
It's 10,000.
10,000 in the budget.
Good, thank you.
That's what I was thinking, but when I looked over there, I only saw 3, so. But in any case, it was not 20,000 as mentioned.
Just to make sure we're all on the same page, under the administration department line item detail, the heading's very important because these are page numbered by department. So administration department line item detail, page 1 of 2, is towards the very bottom would be the list of what we call public information expense. So
Where are we again?
this is going to be in the line item detail. It will be the handout provided to the board that shows the individual specific line item amounts that make up any given summary of expenses. So this is the administration department budget line item detail, page 1. It's towards the very bottom. Whenever we give out the final, and looking back, I've done this from the start, we put all these together and we will put them in a PDF and number them from 1 to whatever, 99, whatever, instead of having the page numbers by department, because that's a little hard to get to. So the final will be much easier to navigate.
The item description is event giveaways, I think.
And so just for clarity, we're talking about $10,000? Is that right? Okay.
One thing I'd like to clarify, Mr. Watkins, I spoke with him earlier, and he made mention of a mailer that was sent out in the bill, and we got 3 responses out of 17,000 or something like that. That wasn't involved in promotional items, that was a mailer. LSU did a study in 2011 that looked at mailers like that, and then other call to action to customers that involved a promotional product. Those who received promotional product responded 500% more than those who didn't. So it's not always about trinkets. It's
And what
literally
types
about,
what types of customers were those, and what types of industries were they in?
that's farther down in the study that I didn't get to.
So we don't know if that directly applies to a public utility. I mean, it strikes me that
They
we're
were
a little-
included in the survey.
Sure, but it strikes me that we're a little bit different because we're not necessarily looking for brand recommendation or brand recognition. We're looking more for engagement with the community and doing positive outreach to them to tell our story, but also
Absolutely.
educate the public.
But also brand recognition is important. And of the 5 groups that most
Do we feel like
purchased,
brand recognition is a significant problem for the plant board, that folks in the community don't know who the plant board is?
no, it's a problem when they reach out to the plant board and want support and we don't have any to provide.
Oh, you lost me.
We have over 60, 70 people, groups, organizations that reach out to us annually that want us to help them with goodie bags or with golf tournaments or that sort of thing. We're one of the first groups they come to. And without items like this, or when we go to job fairs or we go to community events and set up booths and we don't have those things, it is detrimental to the plant board's brand.
But brand net recognition, they don't have a choice.
They do have a choice when it
For
comes to
water,
cable and other
okay.
things, absolutely.
For water
And
and
no, they
electric,
don't
they
for
don't.
water and cable, but that, or water and electric, but that doesn't mean there's not an expectation that the municipal utility is not going to be a part of community events and support them.
We can be a part of the community events in more positive ways. For instance, the water receptacle that you guys bring around to race, I think that's
Oh, the
an
water
excellent.
No, and we can look
Water
at other
monster.
ways too. Taking this money out could leave a void in a lot of ways, not just whether it's water bottles or whatever we may buy to give away at events or to have at a table to engage customers at a job fair. We're also potentially looking at things like portable chargers that we would take to events where people can come up and plug in their phones or whatever it may be and try to tie all this into our products and services that we provide.
And the example of something like that has a synergy with the company, I think, is there's not much resistance to. The larger resistance is to handing out items that a large percentage are just going to go into the landfill, and there's no demonstrable benefit to the community at large.
There are plenty of studies that say that people that get items at events keep them and use them, and it helps in your brand and everything else throughout the entire year.
Right.
To say they would end up in a landfill, I think, is a bit unfair. People will use items if they're provided to them.
How many times do you go to a restaurant, use your credit card, and see someone other than that restaurant's ink pen handed to you to sign your bill with?
It happens a lot.
It does. I know several places I go now, and lo and behold, I'll get a Frankfurt Plant Board pen to sign my bill on. Somebody's giving them bills. Somebody, when they sign that check, they look at it and they go, oh, Frankfurt Plant Board. It brings that product recognition to the forefront. I'm not saying that we ought to spend $10,000 on ink pens, but I think that there ought to be a leeway in having the people that are going to go to these events and bring products from the plant board. They ought to have the ability to determine whether or not I need to buy 5 cases of pencils to give out to the school kids for a school program, or whether or not I need to buy 200 chargers for cell phones that to hand out at some other event. I think that, we give public information department, a budget to work with. In this case, they've estimated $10,000, and let them make the decisions on how to spend that. I don't think we should be telling them you can only buy chargers or beach balls. Let them use their knowledge of the event they're going to promote the company. If we need to have educational events, which I think we do, I think we need to promote things like our water quality, things like our cable services, things like our telephone services, things like our broadband services. We need to have items that we can hand out at those programs besides a brochure. A brochure will end up in the landfill. You give somebody a phone charger, it's not going to go in the landfill. But it should be the people that are putting together those giveaway items to make that decision. We talk about water quality. We want to do a sample. Well, if we provide them with something that they can drink out of, that they can take home, maybe they'll fill it with plant board water. Just my opinion. Obviously, I don't have any experience in giving out pens and pencils and that kind of stuff.
Well,
These politicians will tell you, you don't, when you're campaigning for office, you don't want to give people your card or a brochure. What you want to give them an emery board, or give them a twist off that you use, something that they pick up from time to time. They see the name, the brand.
well, I'd like to focus the community time spent on just talking to people and having some signs, some posters to get them to discuss and think about things more than give them something.
At a certain event where we set up a booth or whatever it may be, we have that sort of, and we can certainly get more signage. But staff will tell you, and I'm representing all the staff here today, when we go to events, whether it's electric, water, cable, no matter what the department, if you don't have something to help engage the customer, they don't stop and talk to us. And I think they will, everyone tell you to a person out there that that's the truth. We see it every time. If you can find something, if you have a product that ties into what we provide and serve, it will help that interaction. And then you can talk to them about efficiencies. You can talk to them about a lot of different things. But our staff has come to me many, many times in the past and say, what do you have? We have nothing. And people are passing us by. They're going in their pockets and buying candy and gum to have just to try to get people to talk to them.
But
Go ahead.
wouldn't there be a poster up saying something about, say, energy efficiency or,
How to save money on your bill, how to reduce your costs.
We can certainly do that. We want it to be a part of what we're doing. But what we're telling you is the experience that we've had as a staff in a number of years, I've been doing this quite a while, is when you only have educational materials, 98% of the people won't stop and talk to you. And then you miss that opportunity for engagement. They go to the next table that has earbuds or the next table that has ink pens. That's how it works.
You know, we used to set up at the expo, a glorious 3 days of fun and excitement in the hot sun or rain, and we had a booth. We had, I believe it was a big tent, may even been a trailer. I can't remember now. And one of the best things that we did at that time, besides we had televisions in there showing people, you know, all the advantages of the different set-top boxes and all the different availability of programming. We gave out, that's when they did the new light bulbs when they were coming out. We were giving everybody away light bulbs. People stopped in to see that. People walked away with the light bulb, and I guarantee you, they didn't go in the landfill, but it was something they could use. We've kind of gotten away from that, really, because it's just not been cost effective to go. But the expo is probably one of the biggest draws that we have in our community. You know, you can talk about coming to the summer concerts. People aren't coming there to get material on how they can improve their energy bill. They're coming to relax and enjoy. We don't have a lot of trade shows in Frankfort. We don't have a lot of opportunities to engage the community in the educational aspect of the services that the plant board has to offer. That's not to say that when those opportunities present themselves, that we couldn't have your informational posters, that we couldn't have brochures and handouts, that we couldn't have product experts there to talk to people. But you got to get them inside the booth to talk to them. Someone just recently brought up to me that they would go to trade shows and there would be a popcorn machine and people would come in to get their popcorn. I've done that. I've come into a booth solely to get the popcorn. I didn't really care about the product they were offering, but I listened for a minute while I ate the popcorn. You agree? Other instances where they would go to an automobile trade show and they would have some pretty scantily dressed woman to attract them into their booth. I don't think we ought to get into doing that.
I'm going to pass on that one. If you don't mind.
But those are all things to attract people into your booth. You've got to have an attractor. If not, people will walk by. So whether it's an ink pen, a pencil, a beach ball, a popcorn machine, to get them into your area where you can talk about it. Once you get them inside, as you're handing them the beach ball or you're handing them the popcorn, you can ask them questions. Hey, do you know about this service that we have? I see that you're elderly. You know, do you know that we have a product for our elder population that if you fall, you can press a button and help will come to your door immediately? You know, you got to get them inside though to talk to them. If not, they walk by.
But don't you think more
Let's not tell
targeted
anybody
efforts?
that they're elderly. That's just.
Well, you know, it's a.
that would get their attention.
You're not in trouble.
Where's there she is. I didn't say that. Thank you. But you get my drift. You've got to have something that draws them in, whether it be candy or whether it be popcorn or whether it be an ink pen. And I think yes, we need to have targeted efforts.
Well, I think about our front lobby downtown. Are there any posters there talking about programs that we're looking at considering energy efficiency, water? No, our lobby is blank. So why, of course we have to give things away at community events because nobody knows anything. If we had posters that were interesting, that asked them questions, I think you could engage people without giving them stuff.
And the giveaways is more of a shotgun approach, right? You're casting out a net, trying to catch anybody that happens to walk by, instead of having a targeted
Like a qualified
approach,
lead.
A qualified lead. Your conversion rate on, tying a pork chop around your neck and hoping the dog plays with you is not really necessarily going to get us the level of engagement and connectivity and conversion rate that we want with those customers.
Well, I think what we ought to do, and this is just me, but I think we ought to develop an educational product, whether it across all lines of service. Obviously, electric you're pretty stuck with, water you're pretty stuck with, but our telecommunications, those are something that's available from many different sources. Develop some training materials, some promotional materials, and if we have to, we could create our own event that says, come to the service center, or when we get our new admin building built, come to our new admin building. We're going to have hot dogs and come in and we'll talk to you about ways you can have your home more energy efficient.
So would you like to put the $10,000 into doing this educational packet rather than giving away stuff?
I don't think we need to restrict it. I think that he's probably not going to buy $10,000 worth of whatever.
That's
But
what's
I-
in the budget.
Well, I understand that, but I mean, when you buy stuff, you put a number in the budget because you anticipate you spending that. I think if we direct them to, hey, as part of that $10,000, make sure you spend some of it on promotional materials that educate instead of just giveaway. But you can't cut out all the giveaways.
One of the things I would interject is you talked about not being able to do much with electric and water. One of the things that we can certainly do that helps educate when you talk about school groups, depending on the age group, is there are availabilities out there through the APPA and AWWA and others to purchase coloring books, things like that that are educational and informational, but yet when you go into that school, you have that material in your hand. That's the sort of stuff I'm talking about. When we talk about giveaways, and that's a broad term, it's not always a water bottle. It's not always an ink pen. With that $10,000 will be spread out amongst a lot of different ways. Coloring books is one of them. I know I've talked with our electric folks. They go to a couple of different school events, and that would be something very beneficial to them. But until the money is in the budget for us to research and have that allocation and take care of it, they don't have it. So they're really going to buy bubble gum to give to kids, and you're missing an entire educational opportunity there.
I thought the remaining 27,000 covered more of those educational materials. And
No,
the
this is
10,000
part of that.
And the 10,000 was specifically earmarked for giveaways such as tote bags and bottles. And
Tote
that type of
bags,
thing.
bottles, but coloring books, that sort of thing could be involved in that.
But I thought that's what we were allocating the remainder budget was to address those types of items.
It's part of that. Though these items, coloring books could be a part of it, just like ink pens, just like water bottles, whatever.
One of the best programs that I believe I've seen us do was in the electric division. And up at the archery range several years ago, we set up a panel, electrical panel, and we had electric meters on the panel, remember that one? And we had different light bulbs, some of the newer light bulbs, and you turn on a spotlight, and the meter would barely move, and then you turn on a regular bulb and the meter would spin. And that demonstration, and I still, several years ago, and I still remember that because that's the type of thing that is educational.
And I would agree. I think that's a great way for us to spend our money. It's the tote pads and the trinkets that's more the concern. It's not the educational outreach and the budget per se itself.
And
It's
again,
to make
those
sure that
things-
we're targeted and we're getting, the most for our money and the most efficient use of our money, instead of, it strikes me, the giveaways are more of a shotgun approach just for whoever happens to swim by and get
Well,
caught in
and
that.
you're making that assumption on we're just only talking about being in a public booth. A lot of these other things come up when the American Cancer Society calls us and says, we're having a golf tournament, can the plant board provide us something? We don't cut them checks, but if we can provide them something that is goodwill that goes into a goodie bag, that people see that we're supporting. We get over 60 requests like that a year. They come in once a week easily. And we can't, well, we can, but it makes it very difficult to have good public relations, community relations, when every organization that calls you that wants support and you tell them no, we don't have it.
Well, we can support them in other ways.
How would we do that
Such
without
as-
money?
Such as your, well, not with necessarily giveaways, but with, you know, the water monster is a good example.
But it's, at golf tournaments, we're not gonna be able to take the water monster to 52 golf tournaments a year that request it. But you might be able to, and have those that have a large enough group, that our group that's gonna get together and decide on who we're gonna support, how and why. You can then maybe drop a stylus into a golf bag for 100 folks. You can maybe drop in earbuds. You can maybe drop in a water bottle. That's the sort of thing. It's not always about an event where we have a presence. It's about an event where we can't be, but there's a presence there for us.
Well, coming into this meeting today, I was initially inclined to go along with the motion to drop outreach items, but having heard David and Glenn, I kind of changed my mind, and also begin to wonder again, am I micromanaging? If I tell them don't do this, don't do that, am I micromanaging an area that I should be leaving to the experts? So I've kind of changed my mind since coming into the meeting and reviewing this, and now reviewing it now. I'm inclined to be persuaded that there is some value to some sorts or varieties of outreach items.
I agree.
Well, we're talking about $10,000 of a $100 million budget. And we're trying to say, of all the items in that budget, we're trying to say, Mr. Public Information Officer, we don't want you to spend $10,000 on outreach. That sounds like micromanaging to me.
I accuse others of micromanaging, but feel like I'd be doing it myself.
Well, we're talking about policy on giving out items, not just a particular detail.
Call the question.
Well, I think we do need to keep moving here. Do we have a motion?
I make a motion, we remove the $10,000 line item for the budget for giveaways.
Do we have a second?
I second it.
Okay. Any more discussion? If not, a vote yes is to remove the item from the budget. Vote no be to not remove it.
Board Member Rosen?
Yes.
Board Member Baldwin?
Yes.
Board Member Prokowski?
No.
Board Member Green?
No.
Board Member Lightfoot?
No. Okay. So there's no change in that. Okay. So far, I believe so far we've had only one actual item in changing in the proposed budget, and that says $2,500 for the landscape stuff. We're down to the last action item before we take action on the budget itself. And, this is number 11. Consider removal of budget allocation to fund the new business telephone services sales role.
I think it's fitting that we're talking about this today. This is the last day of the 6 laid off employees' workday. And we had 6 employees working in the telephone department, and we're now talking about replacing them with a new telephone employee. And I'm wondering, ethically, is that fair?
I think the answer probably would lie in the function or the role of the new employee is to help build business there. But I think that staff can explain the rationale, the reasons for having this sales rep in the budget.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Harvey Couch and I collaborated on the information here, and over the course of the last few months, several months, as we've gone through the budget process and worked together on this, the position is a business product specialist and not specifically the telephone department. In my personal opinion, it's always really been more on the broadband side than it has really been on the telephone. But business telephone is an aspect of that. We have tried in the past, in mid-2000s, as we had all of these products for sale, we had an idea and tried to make it workable, where we ask our ad sales people to also try and sell these business products. And over the course of about a year's time, it quite frankly didn't really work very well. It didn't work very well because of the time consumption on selling 30-second commercials is significantly greater than trying to sell these, at least for the staff I had at that time. And what we didn't really plan for, and what really happened was that when we started to get trouble calls, not just on telephone, but be it security or something else, those calls were being funneled to people that actually had a primary position other than business product specialist. So we asked them not to do that anymore, and we tried it again in 2012. Might have been 2013, I don't have the exact year, where we asked a public information coordinator to also serve in a role as business product specialist. As he started into that role and we did some training, the majority of the time spent there, in my opinion, was with our Ethernet product. And as Mr. Waldrop kind of gained knowledge and experience, he was really pretty good at it. But what happened was his job changed, and he became only public information. He was sharing both roles. And so in 2014, working with the HR department, came up with a job description to have it solely specific, dealing with a customer and having a single point of contact for our broadband, business Ethernet, security, business telephone, those type of products. We went through the process that the board approved and established with the redo of our pay compensation plan with the Johansson Group, and the job description was brought to the board, and it was approved in a grade assigned to the position, and we included it in the budget last year, but it was funded, but we never filled the position for a couple of different reasons, but we just didn't get it done. And so I brought it back this time again, asking the board to consider adding this position. I can say that in the 13 years that we've offered a telephone service, we've never had a salesperson there in the telephone department. So to say that this is a telephone position and it, I don't remember the exact wording, that it looks bad that we're laying off staff. We're laying off staff that are in technical roles, and this is absolutely not a technical role. So I don't see how the two kind of go together there. That we're looking more at needing some help in this area to provide better service to our business customers. We think it's a growth area. Harvey spent a bit of time putting together some statistical information on page 5 of 7 of the question and answer Q&A that went to the board. He's also spent quite a bit of time, and I'll let him get into the information. We talked to several different companies, cable telecom companies that have these positions today, but we included information from just 4 of them that are, some are in Kentucky, some are outside, most are outside, some are big, some are small, some are municipal, some are not. So we thought we had a good cross-section of information. So I'm going to be quiet for just a second and let Harvey add anything to that he'd like.
I would just ask you guys to read their comments. I thought they were pretty self-explanatory, that it was obviously a diverse group of Kentucky and not Kentucky, utility, not utility, and their answers really were pretty consistent about how much success they had in growing their product and how it's helped customer service, customer experience on the business side. So those are the goals with this position.
Yeah, my primary concern is not necessarily with whether the role should exist, because I think it's clearly important that we try to market our services, especially in the telephone and the broadband area. And I read your comments, and that concern was only bolstered by your comments. One of the companies that you offered as an example that has a full-time salesperson has 118,500 customers. It has 1,126 employees, and it covers a service area of 3,720 square miles. And that's a significantly larger organization than we are. And if they have, a single full-time resource, it seems like we're a significantly smaller scale than that. And along that lines, my other question is I didn't realize until Mr. Higginbotham's commentary that this was an existing job opening that was available last year as well. So was that offered or made available to any of the folks we just laid off?
I may not have explained that correctly. It's not in the current fiscal year.
Oh.
It was the fiscal
In a
year previous.
I see.
Sorry.
So we skipped a year there in the two.
Yes.
I see.
And the laid-off employees, a telephone order representative and telephone manager wouldn't fit in this job description?
I don't know the qualifications of all those people. I know what the qualifications asked for in the job description. We haven't posted it. I don't know if they will apply. I don't know that they have specific, would they be open to apply, I guess is the question, and I think the answer is absolutely they would be. Is that correct, Diane?
They would be able to apply for any future job opening that we have. When the job was posted in the past, and I can't remember how long ago that was, they didn't apply for it at that time, so that we weren't going to outsource the telephone services. But like John, I wouldn't want to comment, or I'm not intimately aware of all of their skills and abilities to say whether this would be a good fit, but they would be eligible to apply.
Okay, but it just sounds like those two descriptions of telephone manager, telephone order representative kind of fits in with the new title of new business telephone services. Seems to be related.
I don't think we disagree with you.
Okay.
Yeah. We asked for it to be included in the budget. Hopefully it stays in the budget from my personal point of view. It gets approved, and I put a lot of pressure on Diane Schneider to post the position as quickly as possible.
Okay. But it seems strange that we'd lay off 6 people but not have this as one possibility while they're still here.
The position doesn't exist in the budget. I can't post a job that's not there. That's why I'm asking. I asked last year and it
Okay.
didn't make the budget.
Okay.
So I'm asking for the third time.
Okay, thank you.
So it sounds like from our commentary that we had some success doing this with an internal resource previously. Why do we think we're not going to have success doing it with an internal resource now?
We didn't have success with an internal resource because the resource I had only worked on it for about 6 or 7 months and then was reassigned to other duties. And in the past, this has truly only been a part-time duty by full-time employees that really were focused on something else. And we've tried and quite frankly, in some ways failed on 2 different occasions to have a single point of contact that does this specifically full-time. This is their job description. This isn't extra added-on duties in case you have time. We're hopeful that if we have somebody here full-time and this is all that they do, and that we don't reassign their duties or focus to something else, that we can be successful.
So since a lot of this is going to be reselling the services from Big Rivers, is there some opportunity out there for Big Rivers to actually step up and market their own services?
They don't offer those services. That's part of the partnership that we have a responsibility to actually promote and offer new products that we've never been able to offer before through them. But again, my personal opinion is this: what we're dealing with as a staff perspective, and there's another Casey Jones, myself, 3 different engineers, depending on which one answers the phone, and sometimes Ryan Henry, I guess, over also in IT. We tag team a lot of these requests for Ethernet and larger broadband sales today, and quite frankly, we're pretty inefficient at it. And we think we can do a lot better by having a person that is completely focused on doing this, generating the revenue. I don't have a lot of opportunities. David Denton and I spend quite a bit of time talking about this, that we don't have a lot of revenue streams right now that are in the positive. We've lost somewhere close to 17 or 18% of our video customers over the course of the last 5 years. We've lost nearly 30% of our telephone customers over the course of the last 5 years. But we continue to have a little bit of an uptick in our security services. We are definitely at a I forget exactly what the number is here, but I think it was given to you by Harvey as far as the don't know if you gave that to him or not, I can't remember now, we've gone over this so many times, what our uptick was in Ethernet sales over the course of the last 24 months, but it was pretty significant, about 30% increase, and we do that badly. We don't serve the customer in that way as good as we could, I think, and we could certainly improve how we serve those Ethernet customers. It goes to the bottom line. It's one of the better products that we have. Our customers, I have yet to understand a customer that was unhappy with that service from us, and I just think that there's a great opportunity for us to sell a heck of a lot more of that to go to the bottom line to help pay FSN debt, head-end debt, and our piece of the admin building debt.
So the new business telephone service sales role actually includes security?
It does. It does. And just to make sure that we're talking about the same thing, it's called a business product specialist. Telephone is not in the title. But on page 5 of 7, what Harvey has talked about in the second paragraph, he does talk about security there, along with Metro Ethernet telephone services and some video. But he also, in the third paragraph, also talks about security services and where we are. I think on the security side, my personal opinion would be, and Adam is here, Adam Hellard has run the security department from its inception. I think this is more of a lead, picking up leads and making sure that the customer has the information on the services that are offered. But truly the technical side and the going in and doing an evaluation of a certain business and to give the customer feedback on the evaluation of security needs within a business would still come from the folks within the security department, because they are our experts. They're the ones that do the install every day. They know what works. They have the actual training. But it's the business leads and the relationships that we can build for all of these services, and really, again, have one point of contact to deal with that. We're here asking for the third time, like I said, we hope that you approve it and leave it in the budget, but we will continue on. If it doesn't make the budget, we will continue on as we have and do our best to serve the customer as best we can.
Well, this is one outlay, one job that is going to have a direct relation potential for increasing revenues. That's the thing about this expenditure. We can increase revenues. We got out of the grubby business, expensive business of the switch, so we can concentrate more on business development, and that's what John's trying to do. So I'm inclined to not remove it.
And I'm in support of the role. I absolutely think we should be pursuing the effort. I just still have significant questions whether we need to allocate another resource to do it. I think we can. I think the case hasn't been made that we can't do it internally.
Well, we're going to do it internally, but we're going to have a
internally
specialist
without an additional resource.
Okay, any more discussion? Are we to where we need them ready for a motion by anybody?
Sure, I make a motion that we remove the funding for the business product specialist from the current budget year, or from the upcoming budget year.
I second it.
We have a second. Any discussion? If not, a vote yes is to remove the budget allocation. Vote no would be to not remove it from the budget.
Board Member Rosen?
Yes.
Board Member Baldwin?
Yes.
Board Member Strauss?
No.
Board Member Green?
No.
Board Member Ludwig?
No. Okay. Motion does not carry. Okay, folks, we're here for the grand show now. We have about 12 hours to approve a budget. So we've been through all the budget stuff, and David has come up with a few amendments, which he's supplied everybody. He'll comment on in a minute. And then we had one change tonight. We had this, I think, just one change tonight, the $2,500 for the landscape maintenance. That would be an adjustment to the budget. So, David, do you care to make any comments to us before we, just maybe to summarize where we are with this?
Sure. There was original draft of the budget presented to the board on Friday, May 20th, and then we had public meetings on Monday the 23rd, Tuesday 24th. During that time period between then and the original expected approval date by the board on the regular scheduled June 21st board meeting, They're really provided to the board a summary of changes that have occurred from the 20th of May all the way to today, not including the $2,500 for the landscape project. So really, due to the fact that we need a board-approved budget today, would recommend that the budget that you received, plus the amendments that I've provided in the summary, in addition to the $2,500 for the landscaping, that the board would move to approve the budget with those changes, and that we would present that budget to the board as soon as we get it ready. We have to post it to the Department of Local Government website by July 15th, and then I would say that by July 15th, we will also have it on FPB's website. So that's really just move for approval with the changes that you've been given.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Yes, I make a motion to approve the budget with changes.
All right, changes specifically being the summary of changes that
Summary
David's
changes.
presented today and this $2,500 for landscaping, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. I'll second that motion. Discussion. Okay, vote yes is to approve the budget for 2016-17 that is commencing with our fiscal year July 1, 2016. Vote no would be to not approve that budget.
Board Member Russell?
No.
Board Member Baldwin?
No.
Board Member Groski? Yes. Board Member Green?
Yes.
Board Member Lewin?
Yes. Okay. All right, we have our budget, and I want to thank everybody and the staff who's worked so hard on all this, and we're ending a fiscal year here, about to start a new one, sort of a fresh start. And again, I'm always amazed at how hard our people work at the plant board. Everybody from truck drivers and laborers on up to the top people. I think our community is fortunate indeed to have the Frankfurt Plant Board, its employees and its managers. Again, I think we've had a successful year. We're going to have another successful year. Unless there's any more commentary, I think we can entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moving.
Second.
Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. All right, our special meeting stands adjourned.
David?